Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and get some incredible motivation from the one and only John Maxwell. Enjoy.
Make every day your masterpiece. The secret of your success, the secret of my success is determined by what we do daily. And we've missed this all the time. I wrote a book called Today Matters. And the reason I wrote the book Today Matters is because today matters. We over-exaggerate yesterday. We just think we were amazing yesterday. We weren't. Just trust me. Of course, when you're my age, 71, you don't need to worry about it. You forget. The other day I was in a car and Margaret looked at me and said, "John, we're forgetting everything." I said, "We kind of are, aren't we?" She said, "Let's do a plan." I said, "What's your plan?" She said, "You remember who we are, and I'll remember where we're going." Hey, it's working. It's really working. You got to divide it up a little bit. You got to divide it up. We over-exaggerate yesterday. Hey, we overestimate tomorrow. Oh yeah, tomorrow, I'll get to that tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Oh yeah, tomorrow. By the way, good intentions are worthless. Worthless, folks. When are you going to fall out of love with good intentions? They're worthless. Good intentions are worthless unless they lead to good actions. Nobody ever had their life changed by somebody hoping, thinking. Good intentions are not enough.
I wrote a book, maybe 8-10 years ago called Put Your Dream to the Test.
Okay.
And it's just a good solid book. And in it, the kind of the thesis of that book was that the more valid reasons you have to accomplish a dream, the higher the odds are that you will. Oh, wow. Now that's a powerful thesis. So there's no cotton candy here. There's no hype stuff here.
Yes.
And so I basically looked at what are the valid reasons to achieve a dream, and there were 10 of them.
Okay.
And so I formed it in a way of questions. But the first question is your dream really your dream? And that's where we start at. Because can I tell you something? If your dream isn't really your dream, ain't going to work. And I tell people in the book, hey, the first dream we have isn't our dream. Yes. It's our parents' dream. So my mom and dad, when I was 7, they thought I was going to be a musician. And so I'm taking piano lessons from the 7 years old to about 13. I wasn't any good in piano. It wasn't your giftedness. It wasn't my gift, but they're so proud. They go to my recitals and clap. I'm living their dream. I'm playing the piano. I can't play the piano. I'm not very good at it. I'm not gifted, but it doesn't matter. I'm living their dream. Yeah. So what I tell people all the time is we start off our life living someone else's dream, probably our parents. So what happens is a lot of people as adults, they never switch.
So true.
And so they're still living someone else's dream. And again, it's like a biblical analogy. It's King, or David before he was king, putting on King Saul's armor.
Yes.
It's not fitting, and he's staggering around there. Well, I know a lot of people, they're putting on someone else's armor, and they just aren't going to achieve because it's not who they are. It's not their dream.
The first thing I want you to know that success is not a destination, it's a journey. Think of success as a process. Let me illustrate it and explain it this way. If you go to college, you work hard, and in 4 or 5 years, depending on what kind of degree you're working on, and in today's society, sometimes 6 or 7 years, but eventually comes the day of graduation, and you're all excited, and your family is there, and your friends are there, and you're there with your classmates, and you got your cap and your gown, and you know that there's going to be a time in that ceremony where you're going to walk across stage, and the president, provost, somebody's going to shake your hand, hand you a diploma, congratulate you, and you're going to get off the other side. They're going to have presents waiting for you, and they'll be taking pictures, and everybody will be shaking your hand, say, "Congratulations, today you become a success. You're a college graduate." Now, my friend, you did not become a success the day that you got your diploma. Now, what you did have happen to you in that ceremony is you got recognized for success. The diploma is recognition of what you have done the previous 4 or 5 years. You see, you were a success in your freshman year when you decided to not drop out of school like some of your other classmates and decided to stick to it. And you were a success every time you studied for a test. And you were a success every time you did a project or did a writing assignment. You see, you're a success all through school. You're a success every day. Success is a daily thing, not a destination thing. The day you got the diploma, you just got recognized for the success that you already were. Now that's very essential, because so many times people have a tendency to devalue the moment, today. What they do is they greatly value the destination. And so they kind of talk about, well, when I get there, or if I arrive there, or when I do that, or when I accomplish this. And they don't understand that success is a daily thing. And I'm here to share with you that the secret of success is determined by your daily agenda. In fact, I wrote a book a few years ago called Today Matters. I'm passionate about that book because what it does is it helps me to understand that we make decisions and then we manage decisions. And too often we think, I will make a decision. For example, you're saying, I'm going to make a decision to be a coach. Or I'm going to make a decision, you know what, I'm going to make a decision to be a public speaker. I want to be a communicator. Well, congratulations. You've made a wonderful decision. Coach, speaking, good decisions. But that won't make you a successful coach. That won't make you a successful communicator. It's not the decision that makes you. You've got to make the decision by managing it, and you manage the decision on a daily basis. In other words, what you want to be tomorrow, you've got to do today. You visualize tomorrow. That gives you hope, and that's your motivation, and that's your dream. Nothing wrong with that. You visualize tomorrow, but you value today. What's that mean? That means that what I do every day is either getting me closer to that vision, that dream, that goal, or it's really driving me farther away from it. You see, every day we are either repairing or we're preparing. You see, if I messed up yesterday, guess what I get to do today? Fix yesterday. In other words, if I didn't do the right thing yesterday, what I got to do today is I've got to repair. I've got to go back, make amends, backtrack, put the car in reverse, put my life in reverse. I've got to go back there. I've got to repair. Now, every day I spend repairing, I'm not spending preparing. Well, you see, we repair when we fail to manage the decisions that we've made. We prepare when we, on a daily basis, manage the decisions that we've made. So your footprints to success are really footprints of success. Because every step that is made and taken based upon the goals that you have for your life, and you're managing those goals correctly, every step is the progressive realization of success in your life. And by the way, you'll get the diploma, you'll get the certificate, but when you get that, you didn't arrive. It just is another step in preparing you to reach your potential. Each one of us should live our life as if we'll never learn everything we need to learn. We'll never be able to accomplish everything we wanted to accomplish. We won't be able to experience everything we wanted to experience. We should live our life every day hungry, understanding that we are to live until we die. You see, I think success can't be summarized in a flippant degree or program or diploma or arrival. I think today, if you are learning to coach, if you are learning to speak, if you're doing the things that are essential to the decisions and you're managing those decisions well, can I say something to you? Congratulations, you are already a success. Now, guess what? Over time, it shows up. You've heard the expression. You maybe even said it yourself. You've heard the expression, I'm sure. I've worked all my life to become an overnight success. That's the way it works. All of a sudden, somebody recognizes you. All of a sudden, somebody congratulates you. You didn't get good at that moment. You've been good for a long time. It just showed up someday.
Also, if you want to build more confidence, the science says it can take up to 254 days of consecutive action to successfully build a habit. So I've created a free program for you where every day for 254 days, I will send you an unlisted video to your email, absolutely free, to help you build your confidence. The link to join is in the description below.
I've never met a person who was not successful that didn't have a great amount of self-discipline within their life.
Have you ever heard a motivational speaker tell you that attitude is everything? I'll bet you have. I've heard many say that. In fact, they'll say something like, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And that never quite rang true with me. So I began to press the issue, and I have come to the conclusion that attitude isn't everything. Now, I'm not disclaiming or in any way being disparaging about attitude, because I think attitude is very important. But if anybody comes up to you, tells you that attitude is everything, I don't buy into that. That's not true. For example, attitude can't replace incompetence. If you're incompetent, you can be very happy, but you can still be very unsuccessful. Now, here's what I do know. Attitude isn't everything, but attitude is the main thing that'll make a difference in your life. And because I believe that, I wrote the book, The Difference Maker. You see, that's what attitude is. Attitude is the difference maker. You have two people side by side that you're thinking about employing in your company. Both of them have the same background, same job description, education, experience. I mean, you could almost flip a coin and say, I could hire the one on the right or I could hire the one on the left. But one has a great attitude and one has a bad attitude. Now, who are you going to hire? You're going to hire the person with a great attitude. Why? Because it was the difference maker.
If you want 2019 to be the year that you really want to be, here's the secret of making it a great year. Every day, serve someone. Every day. Every day add value to people. Every day serve one. Every day live the intentional life of doing for others, sometimes what they cannot do for themselves. And if you will put people first and add value to them and serve them, it becomes absolutely amazing what you and I are going to have and achieve, how we're going to help people, and in return, how it comes back to us. Benjamin Franklin said this: no one is useless in this world who lightens the burden of someone else. If you're helping someone else lift a load in your life, you become a very useful person. Mahatma Gandhi said that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. But perhaps on this kind of a theme, my favorite quote is from Albert Schweitzer, who said, I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know. The only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. Boy, he's right on. The happiest people are not always the most successful people, but they're the ones who serve the best. I've met a lot of unhappy, successful people, haven't you? But I've never met an unhappy person that gave their life of serving and giving and adding value to other people. Martin Luther King Jr. said, everybody can be great because everybody can serve.
You're probably wondering, is there more for John Maxwell at this age? Are you finished writing? Are you starting a whole new thing? No. Are you, you're not going to stop dreaming?
No, I'm not even. In fact, I'm having the greatest time of my life. I'm learning more right now than I've ever learned. Through the John Maxwell Leadership Foundation, we're doing transformation in countries, and we're seeing greater changes than I've ever seen before. And people come and say, well, when are you going to retire? And I'm not going to retire. That doesn't seem to satisfy them. So I just tell them, when I die, I'll retire. I won't do any more speaking. I won't write any more books. When I'm dead, I'm dead. But I think what I want to do is live until I die and not get the two confused. You know what I mean?
One day I realized that when you counsel people, you work on their weaknesses. And when you equip people, you work on their strengths.
Oh, that's good. Oh.
And the moment I went from working on weaknesses to working on strengths, I was a rock star with strengths, because you show me your strength and I'm going to give you a game plan and let's get going, because I'm a natural equipper, not a natural counselor. Yes. Nothing wrong with counseling, it's just not my gift. You with me? And what did they teach me in college? They taught me how to administrate.
Yeah.
So I'm in my, I've got my little country church, I'm doing administration. Well, there's no return there. I mean, my gosh. And one day I'm waking up and I'm saying, wait a minute, this isn't working. I got to go get me some volunteers to do this administration so I can get back. And so it's trial and error. And sometimes I think we go to people like, Ed, if I'm trying to find out my strengths and you and I know each other really well, I may come to you and say, okay, well, talk to me. What do I do well?
Yes.
Sometimes we don't understand our own strengths, and it takes somebody that really is a good friend that knows us well that can say, well, I think you're really good in this area, but you got to find them.
Yes.
And the good news is everybody has gifts.
When you manage something, you do so to keep it going. Well, you don't need to keep time going. You don't even need to watch it. You can be completely unaware of it. You can go to sleep. Doesn't matter. Time just continually moves. Doesn't need you, it doesn't need me, it just keeps moving. We don't need to do time management because there's nothing to manage. It's automatic, it continually moves. What we need to do is priority management. With the time that is continually slipping away from us, we need to manage our priorities to maximize the time we have. So don't manage your time, maximize your time. How? By doing the things that are the most important to do at that moment. Make every day your masterpiece.
If you can make things happen for yourself, you now have the credibility to make things happen for other people. Whoa. If I'm not successful, there is no appeal for you to follow me. I tell people all the time, success is the credibility of a leader to lead. Because you think about it, nobody ever said, oh my gosh, I'm financially in deep weeds. Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to go call my buddy Joe. He's been bankrupt 3 times. Hey, Joe. Right. No, you don't follow Joe. Joe's been bankrupt 3 times. You got to go find somebody that's successful with money.
So
I'm going to get a divorce. Oh my gosh, I'm going to call Jack. He's been divorced 4 times. Jack, help me with my marriage. You see, people, when they need help, the first thing they think about is who is better than me that I can follow. And so the credibility of a leader as far as to lead is that they're successful. If I'm successful, I say, hey, Ed, want to join my team? Well, of course. If LeBron James was in the room right now, LeBron says, we're going to play a little basketball, and LeBron says, I'll pick, and then John will pick. Well, when LeBron's there, you're got your hand up and say, LeBron, pick me, because you're going to win if you get LeBron. And every time I'm getting ready to pick, you're diving behind the chair.
It's a fact.
You don't want to be on my team. You're going to lose on my team. And so what I tell people all the time is that the first thing you've got to do is you got to get good yourself. Why would I ever think that I should lead somebody if I'm not any good at it?
So true.
What I discovered about focusing in on a goal or something you want to accomplish is that the moment that you focus in on what you want to do, that's when you begin to have energy to do it. A distracted person lacks energy. And when they get to the thing they need to be focusing in on, they don't have the energy to give. But when a person says, no, this is the one thing I'm going to do, and they set their mind to it, they set their eyes on it, and they set their hand to do it, all of a sudden, energy begins to fill their life. Why? Because what you focus on, what you concentrate on, what you desire to accomplish, once your eyes are fixed on that, it begins to energize you, and you begin to see the possibility of making it happen. I think success, first of all, is knowing my purpose in life. As I have watched and observed successful people, what I have discovered about them is they really have figured out why they're here. They really do have their act together. And knowing their purpose in life is a stability for them.
So that when everyone else is rocking and rolling and things are a little unsteady and people are kind of leaving the ship and people are kind of abandoning their causes, these people, they hold steady right throughout the storm because they have a true North Star. They truly are focused. It becomes an anchor in their life that just holds them steady. And the anchor is a confidence based upon a knowledge of purpose. Someone said that there are two great days in a person's life: the day that they are born and the day they discover why. I'm here to tell you, highly successful people, they've discovered why. If I could just literally come off the stage and I could get real close to you and we could have kind of like a one-on-one conversation. There are two questions that I would ask you, and the two questions I'm about to ask you will really determine how successful you're going to be in this business, without any question. These are the two questions. It's not like there's 3 or there's 4 or there's 7. There's 2, okay? Just trust me on this. I'm an old man. I know this. I've been around the block a few times. And there are 2 questions that if you can answer in a positive way about yourself, you're going to be very successful. And if you really cannot answer that in a positive way, to be honest with you, you're not going to be near as successful as you would like to be. The first question is very simple. What are you doing to develop yourself? And if you'd say, my gosh, John, I'll tell you right now, I'm doing a lot to develop myself. I've got a personal growth plan, and I'm intentional in this, and I'm doing this on a daily deal. If you could say that to me, then I'd say, hey, we're in good shape here. We're in good shape, because that's the key. You know, what are you doing to develop yourself? And by the way, the reason that's first is not because you want to be selfish. It's kind of like almost a selfish question. The person says, well, why do I start with myself? The reason you start with yourself is because you cannot give what you do not have. So you better start with yourself. Because if you're leading others and have nothing to give them, nothing to share with them, nothing to teach them, then I can promise you, you'll never be what you want to be as a leader. And I can promise you that after 40 years of personal growth, the secret of any success, if I've had any success at all, the secret of that success has been personal growth in my life. And growth has literally placed me where I am. So what are you doing to develop yourself? It's a huge question. And the 15 laws of 15 laws of personal growth, basically these laws are all about developing yourself and developing the second question: what are you doing to develop others? You see, on the first question, you're foundational for your future. The second question is all about compounding, multiplication. That's where you build a huge business, when you know how to develop other people. Well, Paul Harvey said that you can tell you're on the road to success because it's uphill all the way. And I'm here to tell you, this something for nothing entitlement mindset that invades so many people's lives is a bunch of garbage. I can promise you, nothing that I've ever had worthwhile did I have just kind of fall into my lap like, oh my goodness, I won the lottery. And I know once in a while people win the lottery, but basically the people that win the lottery, half of them lose their money within 3 years, the money they won. And it's because they got money, but they never changed the way they thought. And can I tell you something? If you have all the assets in the world, but you don't change the way you think, you'll lose all the assets in the world. And what I have discovered in this whole process of trade-offs is that every step of the way of my journey, I have to trade something off. And and for you that are young, the good news is your trade-offs will never be easier than when you're young. Because I remember when Mark and I started out, I think, man, you know, I gave up everything. I was a pastor to go in the ministry. I gave up everything, and then I start smiling. I thought, sure, I gave up everything. I didn't have anything to give up when I did. I was a kid. You know what I mean? I had a 1964 Ford Falcon and a U-Haul trailer and 5 pieces of furniture, and life was grand, and off we went. Here's what I've discovered, Ken, and I think that I want the audience and I want everybody watching around the world to know today, and this is very simple. The more successful you become, the higher the trade-offs are. You see, we make a mistake thinking it gets easier. It doesn't get easier, it gets harder. And the more you have, every time you go back and say, am I willing to risk that again? The more you realize, wow, I'm not sure I am willing to risk this. And what I've learned is the moment I stop making trade-offs is the moment that I plateau.
And life is continually filled with trade-offs. In your life and in my life, my expression I use all the time, Ken, you've heard me you say this, you have to give up to go up.
When somebody comes and says, John, I want to be a leader, I always ask them the question, why? Why do you want to be a leader? I mean, do you want to be a leader because you want a corner office? Do you want to be a leader because you like to be in control? Do you want to be a leader because you love to be in the front of the pack? Do you want to be a leader because you want to have a good parking place? Why do you want to be a leader? Because leadership isn't easy. Leadership a lot of times isn't fun. Leadership a lot of times is kind of lonely. There's only one reason to be a leader, and that is to add value to people. And you and I will only add value to people if we truly value them. I have a nonprofit organization, Equip, that's trained almost 2 million leaders internationally around the world. And I kid you not, as I go to developing countries twice a year and I travel internationally and I sit down, sometimes I have the privilege of being in the offices of presidents of countries. And as I watch these developing countries, the thing that is the cardinal sin among leadership so much is that they have leaders of their countries that truly don't value the people. And if you and I don't value people, we will devalue people. Number two, if you want to add value to people, you have to make yourself more valuable. You just have to get better. You have to keep growing. You have to keep learning. You have to keep developing. Why? Very simply. If you're leading the pack, you've got to be able to give what you have, and you can't give what you don't have. And so therefore, you've got to put a lot of good stuff in so that you can pass it on to others and share with them and add value to them. Thirdly, if you want to add value to people, you have to know and relate to what other people value. You and I have to walk slowly through the crowd. We have to listen. We have to care. You see, great leaders are first of all listeners, and then they're learners, and then they're leaders. They really do take their cue from the people. They understand that the key of leadership is connecting with the people that you lead, and the only way that you and I ever connect is by caring enough to listen. Number 4 is very important to me. When I'm speaking in the business community, I always share with them that for them there are 3 ways to add value to people, but for me there are 4. And I tell them I'll give them the 3. And so I'll spend maybe an hour doing those 3 things I just shared with you, talking about how to add value to people. And inevitably, when I'm done with the 3, somebody raised their hand and say, John, you said that for you there was 4, but you said there's only 3 for us. I said, yes, it's nothing personal, but this is about my faith. And so I don't really need to share this with you. It's because I'm trying to help you, and I don't want to cross boundaries with you. And inevitably they'll say, but John, tell us what yours is. And I'll say, well, okay, you can hear mine, but don't write it down. In fact, don't listen. Because number 4 for me is, if I really want to add value to people, I have to do the things that God values.
How would you tell us to develop a habit of curiosity?
Well, you know what? People do look at me and see me as creative because I've written so many books, and I am curious. But when I started off in college, in my freshman psych class, they gave us a test for each student to take on creativity. And there were 17 in that class. I can remember it well. And I was at the bottom of the class on creativity. I mean, I was like number 17 out of 17. And what the teacher posted the scores. And so, I mean, I saw how bad I was. And then I really felt bad, not only because I wasn't creative, but I was going to go pastor, I was going to go into ministry, I was going to teach, I was going to do sermons. And then I got to thinking to myself, I'm going to be another boring preacher. And, you know, that just gripped me. I thought, oh, this is going to be awful. I'm going to bore people all my life, you know what I mean? And then I'm going to ask them to pay while they hear me. I mean, this is an awful deal. So, and so 2 things I did, and I talk about it in the book. One is I started filing. I started taking thoughts and quotes. And the reason I started doing that is I thought, if I'm not going to be good at what I say, I need to quote somebody that is good. And so I started filing things that other people would say. So I'd go around and I'd say, well, Ken said, you know what I mean? And Joe said, and Susie said. And so that at least I would be a little bit more interested. And that's how it started.
But the big breakthrough I had was, and this will help everyone. How many of you would like to be more creative? Let me see your hands, okay? How many of you would like to just absolutely have an imagination that just took you to a new level? You know what I'm saying? Okay. How many of you already have that because you're on drugs? Okay. Well, here's the key. This will work for you. I promise it'll work for you because it worked for me. I made a major change in my early 30s from just having answers and being a leader that just had to cast vision, show everybody what I was doing and where we were going. And I started asking intentional questions. And I became a person, I ask questions all the time. Every day I ask questions. And I have found just asking questions will take you on exciting journeys more than anything else. You excel in that, Ken. I've watched you over the years. You'd excel really in that. But for my early years, I didn't ask enough questions, and so therefore, I didn't get enough ideas and thoughts from others. So when people say, I want to be more creative, what's step one? Step number one is ask more questions. Just go to people and start asking questions. It's amazing what you'll learn.
Connecting increases your influence in every situation. For the foundation of the teaching today, I want to make sure that we really have a grasp of why connecting with people is so vital. So if you'll go to the very first sentence in your note, the number one criteria for advancement and promotion for professionals is an ability to communicate effectively. That I do believe. I think the ability to connect and communicate is the number one criteria for success with your family, with your marriage, with your children, with your friends, in the workplace, the marketplace, in the community. If you have the ability to connect with people, if you can communicate and connect, not just communicate, it takes you and literally gives you and I a decided edge over others in the advancement of what we're trying to accomplish. For example, in your notes, presidential historian Robert Dallek says that successful presidents exhibit 5 skills and qualities that enable them to achieve things that others don't. So he's talking about leaders and presidents and people. What makes some achieve better than others? Here's the 5 things they do well. Number 1 is vision. Number 2, pragmatism. Number 3, consensus building. The ability to put together a team and get consensus. Number 4, charisma. And number 5, trustworthiness. Being a trustworthy kind of a person. Now, what is interesting about these five things that set the better presidents apart from maybe the average ones, 4 of the 5 deal with connecting. Vision is definitely a connecting skill, the ability to cast a future vision. Consensus building, getting people to work together. You have to be able to connect to do that. Charisma, of course, that's why people follow the quote, the Pied Piper, and trustworthy. 4 of the 5 of the skills needed to be successful as a leader had a lot to do with connecting. So let me define connecting, because that's what this book is all about. Connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them in such a way that it increases our influence with them. In other words, we can identify with them until they say, he or she understands exactly what I know and what I'm going through, and we can relate with them until because of that ability, we begin to increase our influence with them. And of course, what do I teach about leadership? Very simple. Leadership is influence.
I brought something with me today that's very special. It's a kit, and I'm just so pleased to have this because this kit is very important to me. Now it cost me $799, and I got this kit. I got this kit back in the 1970s. Okay, and this was my first personal growth kit. It's Dynamics of Personal Goal Setting. By Paul Meyer, Personal Success Planner, and I was so excited. It cost $799. Now you have to understand, I made about $800 a month. So get the picture. It took me 6 months to buy this kit. I saved up. We didn't have credit cards back then, and I just saved up and worked hard. And it took me 6 months before I had enough cash to buy this kit. And I was so excited when I got it. And I mean, I opened it all up, and this is just amazing. You'll just see some things here that just crack you up. It had For some of you young people, you've never seen this before. They're called cassette tapes. And I remember taking the first cassette tape out, put it on my little cassette player, opening this up. Oh my gosh, this was so wonderful. That wasn't. They had page by page plans. I go through the plans and listen to the tapes and go through the plans, listen to the tape, go to the plans, listen to the tape. This was my first growth experience. And the ROI on this $799 kit, it's worth millions of dollars to me. Yeah, you heard me right. Millions of dollars. And experiences and a lifetime of growth. And what's interesting is, now here's what I want you to hear. The value of this kit, the content was good, but that wasn't the value. The content was good. But as I look back now, I say, what made this so special? What made this so special is very simple. This is the kit that got me started. Hear me out. The value of what you do for people is not so much what you give to them as much as it challenges them to get started. Getting started is absolutely the key to life. And by the time I finished going through this personal growth kit, by the time that was all finished, I had 6 months of day in, day out personal growth. And what it did is it developed a habit in my life. And by the time I finished with that kit, now I'm used to spending time every day in personal growth. It got me started. I mean, this is worth this whole lesson if you can just get this. The reason I'm so passionate about personal growth is personal growth keeps me prepared. In other words, if I'm continually growing, I continue developing myself, and I'm continually learning, and I'm continually doing new things and going to another step higher, can I tell you what that is? That constant growth is the preparation for the opportunity. So when the opportunity comes, here's the way. You don't go into an opportunity, you grow into an opportunity. And so I'm passionate about personal growth because for that person who says, wow, I had an opportunity, I wasn't ready. If you're growing, you're always ready. Because after I intentionally started growing, I made a commitment to grow as a leader. I started writing, I became an author. I developed growth resources for other people. I founded my first company. I began training conferences. Everything I can think of that has ever been good in my life was a result of the fact that I started personal growth in my life. Guess what? When I got started, let me tell you what I didn't have. I didn't have experience. I didn't have knowledge. I did not have a model. I did not have a mentor. I did not have a plan. I did not have a fellow traveler. I did not have resources. I did not have money. I did not have a growth environment. But I got started. You don't stop or not start because of what you don't have. You don't start because you don't realize yet that the fruit of everything good in life begins with a challenge. There's nothing easy in life, worthwhile in life. Everything is uphill that's worthwhile. And it's not going to come to you, and it's not going to fall in your lap, and it's not going to be something that, oh my gosh, it just was so simple. It's always going to be difficult. Every leader I have ever known had a dream, had a vision. In fact, I would say to you, if you're not seeing what could be and what you would like to have, I would say you probably are not a leader. But what I've discovered about dreams is this. Dreams are free, but the journey isn't.
And so leaders go beyond just having a dream. They go beyond having a wish list, sitting around a table and kind of hoping something might come to pass. They understand that if they have a dream, if they're a dreamer, they have to pursue that. They have to take the journey. The dream's free, the journey isn't. And what leaders find is that when they go forth toward that dream, they continually have to pay that price. They continually have to realize that they make down payments on the dream they have. But there's one thing else I would like to say. All leaders realize that whatever they pay, it's worth the price, because dreams for them do come true.
I was sitting at a round table with executives one day, and a person that is highly successful, I could tell, was a little discouraged. He said, "John, I've hit every goal in my life. And now I basically have lost my motivation and my passion." And I looked at him, I called him by name. I'll say Don, that wasn't his name. I said, "Don, the problem is you've been goal-oriented instead of growth-oriented. You see, if you and I are just goal-oriented, when we hit our goals, it's kind of like Eureka, we've arrived, we celebrate, have a party, but then all of a sudden there's an emptiness like, okay, I've hit it. But if you're growth-oriented and establish goals within your growth-oriented journey, you'll hit those goals, but you'll look at it and say, hey, this is just another step towards my total growth. And I've never known a person who said, John, I've grown as big as I can ever grow, and I know as much as I can ever know, and so therefore I have nothing to accomplish. You see, if you're goal-oriented, you'll hit your goal and then be a little empty. But if you're growth-oriented, you'll never hit that goal.
You and I both know that God's gift to us is our potential, and our gift back to Him is what we do with our potential. Perhaps the greatest insult that we can ever give to our Creator is to be a slacker, to somehow have these gifts and have these opportunities and have this potential and do nothing with it. I would suggest today that you believe in yourself as much as God believes in you. He created you for greatness. Now, that's how He created you. You determine how great you become. He has already given you the potential, and He's already given you the opportunity. Your response? Either seize the moment in the day and become all that you possibly can be, or slack in the moment and basically rest and just let things come to you. I encourage you on Minute with Maxwell, take the potential that you have been given as a gift. And the way to say thanks to that gift is by giving your life your very best.
The rule of 5 is the most life-changing concept for focusing on success that I have ever taught, that I've ever lived. So I'm just going to drop it on you just enough to help you understand the 5 concept, to help you understand the 5 things you need to do to lift your leadership lid. The rule of 5 just simply says, if you have a tree in your backyard that you want to cut down, and you have an axe, if every day you pick up that axe and you go to that tree and you swing 5 times with that axe to hit that tree, put the axe down. The next day you go out, pick up the axe, swing 5 times at the tree. Put the axe down. The next day you go out, pick up the axe, and 5 more times you swing at that tree. 5 times every day you pick up the axe, and only 5, not 50, not 15, not 500. 5. If you swing 5 times a day at that tree with that axe every day, let me ask you a question. What eventually is going to happen to that tree? That tree is going to fall. Now, there's no question about that, is there? There's any doubt. You don't have to sit around the table and kind of say, do you think it will? Let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya and hope. If you swing 5 times a day at that tree every day, that tree will fall. End of story. Now, if it's a big tree, it may take a couple years. If it's a little tree in your backyard, I don't know, maybe in a month you could knock that baby down. I don't see. Now the size of the tree will determine how long it takes for it to fall. But that's not what we're debating here. What we're teaching here is if you swing 5 times a day at that tree, every day the tree will fall. Now that's the rule of 5. The rule of 5 says, find your tree. What's your goal in life? What's your purpose? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to knock down? Where's your axe? What are your tools? What is it that you're going to use to effectively go after that goal 5 times a day? What are you? What is it? Because whatever that is, if you use it 5 times a day, every day, you'll be highly successful. For example, I write books. So let me just put that in writing for a moment. I've written 73 books. Jason, that was a nice introduction. It's 22 million, not 19. But what's 2 or 3 million? Give a little, take a little here, a little there. People say, John, how have you written 73 books? Oh, thank you for asking. The rule of 5. You see, there are 5 things I do every day that allows me to write that many books. It's not magic. It's not that I'm brilliant. It's just that I know the rule of 5. The rule of 5. You see, every day I read. Every day I file. Every day I think. Every day I ask questions, and every day I write. Every day I do those 5 things every day. Every day I read, every day I file, every day I think, every day I ask questions, every day I write, every day I read, every day I think, every day I file, every day I ask questions, every day I write, every day I think, every day I read, every day I ask questions, every day I file, every day I write, every day I write, every day I read, every day I think, every day I file, every day I ask questions. Yes, I can do it in different orders, but every day. Doesn't matter whether you swing the axe left-handed or right-handed, you just got to hit the tree. Every day I read. File, think, ask questions, write. Read, think, file, ask questions, write. Read, think, file, ask questions, write. You say, now, John, what do you mean by every day? This is where it gets a little long sometimes. What I mean by every day is every day. Now you say, now let me, when you say every day, do you mean, do you do that on Sunday? Every Sunday I read, think, file, ask questions, write. Do you do that on your birthday? Every birthday. Guess what? Every birthday I read, think, file, ask questions, write. Do you do that on Christmas? Guess what I do every Christmas? Every Christmas I read, think, file, ask questions, write. Do you do this when you're not feeling well? Can I tell you when I'm not feeling well? Even I'm not feeling well. Guess what I do every day? Every day I feel, when I'm not feeling well, I think, write, ask questions. Do all those things. Every day. You say, every day? At the age of 17, I started filing. I've never missed a day. I don't have 100 quotes. I don't have 1,000 quotes. I have tens of thousands of quotes. I don't have 100 stories. I don't have 1,000 stories. I have 10,000 stories. Where did you get all those stories? Where'd you get all those quotes? Well, let me tell you something. Guess what I do every day? See, we overestimate what we can do in a day, and we underestimate what we can do in several days. And you got to understand, the secret of success is not the fact that, hey, I didn't say, hey, some days I get up and I write for 12 hours. And no. I didn't say I write all day. I didn't say I read all day. I didn't say I think all day. I didn't say I ask questions all day. I just said every day. Every day. You see, doing a little bit every day is a lot more important than doing a lot someday. And most people live in someday. Well, I'll tell you what, I think I'll get to that. You know what? I think I'll try that. You know what? I believe I got. Now, here's the key. You got to figure out what the 5 are. It took me 7 years to find my 5 for writing. You say, man, John, you're slow. I am. It won't take you 7 years. But it'll take you a long period of time. I could get the first 2 quickly, but the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, it took me 4 years to get the last one.
I can remember as a parent, as my children got to a certain age and where they looked to me for influence, I can remember very well when I saw them beginning to go to their friends
And that's where their influence began. And that's where their influence began to increase. As a parent, that got a little scary for me because I could see I was having a little less influence and the friends were having a little bit more. Well, my parents were very wise. My parents understood that who my friends were would determine who I was going to become. Birds of a feather flock together. And in their wisdom, they decided that they wanted to know my friends and they wanted to see my friends. And so therefore, they provided a lot of wonderful things in our home so we would have our friends at our house so that my parents could observe and watch the kind of kids I ran around with. And what I learned as a kid growing up is very simple. There are some friends that were positive for me and there were some friends that were negative for me. And my determination of which friends I was going to let influence me basically determined whether I was going to have a positive or a negative life. Fortunately, because of good parental advice and guidance, I chose good friends, which really did make a difference. Because you see, friends are wonderful. They give us support, they give us strength. They're either, though, a real asset or a real liability. So I would just want to encourage you, choose your friends wisely. You don't need a lot, but you need some good ones.
And the word that came to my heart this year that I think God wants me to focus on in 2015 is the word intentional. He wants me to be intentional. He wants me to, maybe more than ever before in my life, really focus on some things that are important and live a life every day, not a day that kind of where I try to accept my day, but a day where I lead my day, a day where I focus on making sure that I really put my intentionality where it needs to be. We all heard the expression, all is well that ends well. I'm here to tell you all is well that begins well. And this is the first of the year, and for many of you, this is your chance. This is your shot. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your opportunity. All of you that are watching online, the different campuses, Daystar, this is your opportunity. This is your time. This is your moment. This is your place for you to really begin to live an intentional life. Passion often is linked with purpose. What I love to do is often what I should do. We have been created within us the capacity to have things that we enjoy greatly. And a lot of times there is a definite relationship between what I am in love with and what I should be doing. We are created and wired in such a way that passion and purpose many times comes together. And passion is the great energizer. Once you have passion, you have energy. Once you find your passion, you find your purpose, there is something energetic about it. You have never known a person who was passionate that lacked energy. We talk about high energy people, we talk about low energy people. There's no such thing as like low energy people or high energy people. If you have high energy, you have passion. If you have low energy, you don't have any passion. You know, some people, they're already dead. They haven't made it official yet. You just look at them. I just want to walk around and do the committal, let them watch and observe the whole process. But passion gives us a great amount of energy. And when we have that passion, there's something about how we love what we're doing and we enjoy what we're doing. And passion energizes us. A person with passion always stands out. The world is so full of apathy. It's so full of average. It's so full of whatever. That once you have passion and once you have a sense of energy in your life, it just sets you apart. It distinguishes you. It already gives you what I would call a head start in success in life.
So when they ask me, are leaders born? I know what they're not really asking, are they born? What they're really asking is, are there some people when they're born, they got it? And some people when they're born, they don't got it. And if you got it, you go to the front of the line. If you don't got it, you go to the back of the line. That's what they're asking. And I've got great news for you. And I do believe, I have no question about it, that there are some people that are born with what I call leadership leanings. No doubt about that. Just like some people are born with kind of a musical leaning. No doubt. But the great news is, because I've done this for so long and I've done this with so many over such a long period of time in every country of the world, what I know is you can learn to lead. You can learn to lead. You can learn to be a better leader than you are right now. If I'm a 5 as a leader,
that means my organization will be what? Talk to me. A 4. Okay, here we go. Because the leadership lid, won't allow it to go higher. So, how do I grow my organization? This is very simple, folks. I've got to raise my lid, don't I? I've got to get this lid up, and because I can become a better leader, I can raise my lid, true? So I can go from a 5 to a 6, to a 7, to an 8, to a 9. Now, this organization is a 4. When that leadership lid starts going up, that organization goes from a 4 to a 5, to a 6, to a 7, to an 8. You see, your organization will grow to the size of your leadership ability. Now, if I were where you are and I was listening to what I just said, and I was taking notes, somewhere on my notes or somewhere on my iPad, I'd be putting a star right here. I'd be putting a rocket ship. I would be putting a sign that says, "Do not miss this." Because your ability to lead will determine how successful you'll be in this house, without any question. The whole concept, the whole idea that you can learn to lead, and if you learn to lead, and the better you learn to lead, the more successful you can become, and the greater your business. This is an absolute fact. It's not a theory, it's not a thought, it's not an idea, it's not a principle, it's a fact. And the law of the lid says, the better you learn to lead, the higher you lift that lid, the greater your business can become. Now, that's the law of the lid.
How we view things determines how we do things. That's just an incredible principle. Now, each one of these I could preach 30 minutes on, but they won't let me do that. But how I view things determines exactly. So if I view things in a perspective of wanting to serve with excellence, guess what I'll do? I'll serve with excellence. If I view things in a very kind of a average way, then I'll put average into that endeavor. So how I view things is how I do things. Let me give you another perspective principle that's just huge too, and that is what you see is who you will be. And we see things not as they are, we see things as we are. That's why two people can be in the same situation, same experience, same place, and see things completely different than anyone else. So what is before you isn't what you see, who you are is what you see.
I'm responsible, Ed, to move on what I see today. Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of people, they're wanting to hold and not move because they don't see 3 days, 5 days, 2 years out, whatever. And what I'm saying is, it's kind of like the lights of a car. If I go to the parking lot at night, turn on the lights and say, oh my gosh, I can't go anywhere, I don't see my house.
Right.
Well, no. Get in the car and start moving in the direction you're supposed to move it. And guess what? You only get about 300 feet of light.
Right.
You don't get you don't get 7 miles of light. Good. You don't get to see your house. You've got to utilize the light you got so that you can get to where you want to go. And so many people they're so uncomfortable with that light because it's not long enough. And what's around the corner? And the whole issue is you don't know what's around the corner until you go around the corner.
Oh gosh, that's so good.
And so you just you have to be very comfortable, which I am. You have to be very comfortable with traveling, not having all the answers.
So true.
But can I tell you something? The only way you get all the answers is to go all the way through.
Absolutely.
You don't get all the answers on this side. And so if I've got to have it lined up and straight and right, and I feel comfortable with it, then I'll never be the leader. And I really believe this, Ed. I believe a lot of leaders fall short because they're unwilling to take what they know now and act on it. And so therefore, they never get to know what they could know.
Every miracle in the Bible has one thing in common, just one thing in common. Trust me on this, I've studied it. The only thing in common, every miracle in the Bible begins with a problem. You never see a miracle in the Bible without a problem first. There's a problem and then a miracle. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that when you have a problem, you're blessed because you're a candidate for a miracle. You see, the only person that has a problem is the person that doesn't have a problem.
You see, if you have a little problem, you're a candidate for a little miracle. If you got a big problem, you're a candidate for a big miracle. I mean, choose the problem and choose the miracle. But if you have no problem, you're not a candidate for a miracle. I feel badly for you.
In the beginning, I couldn't find anybody to mentor me in leadership. I mean, they didn't know who I was. And so books became my mentors. And then I did something that I just encourage everybody to do. I've done this for 40 years, is I began to have what I call learning lunches. And I loved in your green room, your statement on learning. I just love it. But I would go out, I would take somebody like you, Tom, out, and I'd buy the lunch. I didn't even eat, I just had questions. And I would ask you leadership questions. And I would.
What are some of your go-to leadership questions?
Well, the first question is I always look at somebody and I ask them, tell me about your greatest failure. And the reason I ask that is because I think that the character of a person comes out of their failures, not out of their success. And I think that the bedrock part of foundation of leadership is character. And you build on it. And so I want to know about, what tell me about a mess up in your life. And I've had so many of them. I mean, when people ask me that question, it's kind of like, which one do I pull out? But I really like to talk to people about their losses because it just really tells me a lot about who the person really is. I'm not sure success does, but I know failure does. So I ask that. I ask one of the questions I ask them is, who do you know that I should know? And that's led me to meet some incredible people in my life that somebody else opened the door that I wouldn't have had. So I just find that in asking questions, in fact, I wrote a book one time, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. I just find in asking questions, that's the way that I can grow and develop myself the best.
We all like to think that we really do flow, that we kind of move easy and we are easy and people look at us and it's just kind of soothing to their soul to have us around. But to be honest with you, many times we don't flow. And when we don't, it's because a surprise or something that we didn't like. And sometimes my flow doesn't go. It just kind of stops right where it is because there's something happening that's not easy for me to move with. My father, when I was young, said, John, it's not what happens to you that counts. It's what happens in you. You're going to have a lot of things happen to you that aren't good. But if your attitude and spirit is right, you can keep going. You can keep flowing. So when we stop that flow in our life, it's almost always because something rubbed us the wrong way. Something surprised us. We don't like what happened. I would just encourage you to remember my dad's advice. It's not what happens to you, it's what happens in you. The moment that you choose to do the right thing on the inside, guess what? You begin to flow. In the business community, the number one question they're asking me right now is how to deal with millennials.
Yeah.
And
Forbes magazine #2 challenge.
Yeah, and so what I say to them is this: before we deal with them, before we fix them or whatever we're going to do with them.
They don't think they need fixing.
That's exactly right. But we do.
Maybe they don't.
But we do. I share with these leaders, value them. You see, everything begins with valuing people. There are gaps, obvious age gaps, thinking gaps. But the first thing you have to do is you have to find common ground. And the common ground that I find with people is I value them, period. No strings attached. Regardless of age, regardless of anything, I value them. That's kind of Jesus-like. That's what he did in the Gospels. Now, the moment that you value a millennial, you find some common ground, you can then begin to have some understanding, of which I say it's our responsibility as elders, seniors, to understand them first, instead of making sure they understand us.
When I made this transition into the business world, what I discovered was, as you were talking a moment ago, you feel the tug on your heart, the kind of like, wow, I started here and now I'm over here. Here's what I believe. I believe that as you follow your dream, it gets bigger. And when it gets bigger, there are more things that you're learning about it that you didn't know when you started. In the beginning, the dream is just, it's just very little, and you can kind of see it. So you go that way, but then it begins to expand.
Yes.
And for me, it's a calling. And let me just say this: I'm not trying to be over spiritual, but somebody asked me the other day what a calling was, and I like kind of my new definition for calling. Okay. In fact, in my book, Leadership, one of my chapters is shifting from career to calling, and how
perfect.
And how do I make that shift? But I think a calling is a purpose with a divine touch.
I think there are people who would be born with what I would call leadership leanings. They would have a tendency to lean or be gifted in that area, just like somebody's gifted in music or whatever. So I think that starts it, and I think I have that. But then I grew up in a leader's home. In fact, my father is 98, still living.
Whoa.
And in fact, until 2 years ago, was still working full time and was a terrific leader. So I grew up in a culture and environment of leadership. And so when I look at myself at where I am today, so much of it was caught from not only my father, but I've had great mentors throughout my life. In fact, while we're out here in Los Angeles, every time I come out here, I think of John Wooden, who mentored me for the last probably 11 years of his life.
Whoa.
And in fact, when you talked about this, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, he did the foreword on that book. And he just loved the idea of how to get back up after you fail. So when you look at my home background, the leadership experiences that I had, because a person learns to lead by practicing leadership. And at a very early age, I was practicing leadership. And so it all comes together. And then when I began to realize everything rises and falls on leadership, I became really intentional, Tom, of developing my leadership skills. So I can remember, for example, I was probably, maybe 26. I heard Earl Nightingale say on a tape that if you would spend 1 hour a day, every day, on one subject for 5 years, you could become an expert on that subject. So I said, wow, I want to become an expert in leadership. So for the next 5 years, I spent an hour every day reading about leadership, talking to leaders, asking leaders questions, practicing leadership, but it really was consistent. And when I started that process, I was thinking 5 years. Earl Nightingale said I could become an expert in 5 years. Okay, wow, leadership expert, hello. And so I kept, I was kind of like doing countdown, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. I'm thinking I'm Cape Canaveral, okay. But something happened to me about halfway through that 5-year process. Instead of keeping asking myself, how long will it take? How long will it take? How long will it take? One day I began to realize how I was growing as a leader and the change that was happening within me. And I stopped asking the question, how long will it take? And I started asking the question, how far can I go? And everything changed that day. I realized that you can set goals and have 5-year goals, whatever, but I changed from a goal mindset to a growth mindset. And the fact that if I would be intentional in the areas of growth that would have the return and would fit who I was, then I could really be successful and help a lot of people. And that was a kind of a shift for me. And so when I wrote my first leadership book, I thought I would write one leadership book and I'd be done. I didn't think 100 books later. I had a lady the other day said, "You've written more books than I've ever read in my life." You know what I mean? But I didn't have any intention to write a lot of books. But growth allows you to continue to expand yourself and your world until there's just so much more that you know and so much more that you want to share. So, my journey has been really one of understanding that if I every day intentionally grow, the question is just how far can I go? And I don't know that answer. I'm still growing. I'm still moving towards that finish line.
So many times we miss happiness because we think it's out there. And so we pursue happiness. And what we need to discover is the fact that happiness is not a place that you go or a status that you attain. Happiness is an inside job. That when I am content, happy, satisfied, pleased within myself, that everybody and everything will bring happiness around me. Just as if I'm displeased on the inside, there's nothing that will bring me pleasure or happiness on the outside. Happiness is not an outside job. It's an inside job. Happiness is not something that someone brings to me or gives to me. It's something I bring to myself and give myself. So give yourself today the gift of happiness. It's your choice. And guess what? The moment that you are happy within, there's a whole bunch of happiness that you're going to experience on the outside.
I tell people, if you want to be highly successful, you've got to get into what I call the top 5%.
Okay.
So you got 100 people. You got 100 people here in whatever chosen profession you've got. You've got to be in the top 5.
Yes.
You got to get there. And you can only get to the top 5 if you're in your sweet spot. You can't get to the top 5 working on weaknesses. You can't get to the top 5 if I'm not in the area of my giftedness. So you got to find out what you're good at, because that'll give you, if you're committed and if you got a good strategy and all this other, you got a good team around you, then that'll allow you to get in that top 5. And once you're in that top 5%, you're in good shape. You're going to do very well. And I tell, that doesn't matter what your profession is, you got to get in the top 5%. And you can only get in the top 5% if you're in your position, if you're in your sweet spot.
When I wrote my book, Put Your Dream to the Test, one of the questions I asked to make sure that you have a valid dream is this question: is my dream really my dream? Or is it someone else's? You see, most of the time, our dream journey begins not with our dream, but with someone else's, usually our parents. They look at us when they're very young, and they kind of have a little dream for us. They start planting those seeds, and we kind of go off on that little pathway, and pretty soon we're living maybe their dream, but not ours. But there comes a time in your life where the dream cost. And it's at that moment we find out whether we own it or we borrowed it. You see, if I borrow the dream from you or someone else, I won't pay that price. But if it's my dream, I mean, it's really my dream, then I'll pay that price. The ownership question is a great question because it's foundational to our success. If I own it, I can achieve it. The moment I don't own it, there's no way I can ever accomplish what I want to accomplish.
Now, I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video? And what is your plan of action that you're going to execute this week to make some immediate momentum happen? When you just get motivated and watch a video, you have a 35% chance of following through. That's what the science says. But when you write down what time, what day, what place you're actually going to execute, when you create the plan, you have a 91% chance of following through. And I want that for you. And when you commit to people publicly, you increase your chances even more of actually doing it. So I want to know what your single biggest takeaway from this video was and your specific plan of action to actually get the result you're after. Let me know. Put it down in the comments below because I want to celebrate you.
My journey on how to make a difference was when I was in my 20s, and my assistant, I was a pastor, I started off pastoring. She gave me a Christmas present, I opened it up, and the title, it was a book, and the title of the book was The Greatest Story Ever Told. Now, I loved to read, and I thought, oh my gosh, what a title, The Greatest Story Ever Told. I, with great anticipation, opened up the book, and when I opened up the book, much to my surprise, all the pages were blank. And I looked at her, I said, it says The Greatest Story Ever Told. She said, turn to the first page. I turned to the first page, and she had written a note for me. Dear John, your life is before you. You fill these pages with your dreams, with your hopes, with matters of your heart. You write your story and make it the greatest story ever told. I took that book home with me. And the next morning, I wasn't a writer at that time at all. Next morning, I started writing my first book, and this was for me. And the first words on that blank page, the first words I put on that blank page was, I want to make a difference. Because that's exactly what I want to do. I want to make a difference. So as you start to take this Make a Difference journey in our series that we've been doing on vision, and this is the last of the 4, as you start your Make a Difference journey, the first step one is, I want to make a difference. It begins there. It's already in your heart. It was sown in your heart when you were created. I can still remember being in the 4th grade and walking across the campus at a camp meeting. My father was an overseer for about 250 pastors, and he was so greatly loved, and he made such a difference in so many leaders' life. And I would hold his hand, and in the 4th grade, I kind of wanted to go to lunch, and it's only a 3-minute walk across the campus, but for my dad, it was a 30-minute walk. Because he'd stop and pray with people and encourage people and believe in people and love on people. And I would watch people come and just, I could tell how much they adored him and loved him. And I'm in the 4th grade, and I'm saying, when I get older, I want to be just like my dad. I just want to make a difference. I want to add value to people. I just want to make a difference. And when you think about it, when you're making a difference, your spirit is high, your morale is high. You all of a sudden you feel good about yourself and you feel good about others.
If you want to change your life in the next 30 days for free, check out my training right here below. Or if you want 2 hours of Jordan Peterson motivation, check out the link right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy them. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.